Medical expert Dr. Bill Comrade de Blasio is now demanding in New York City that the people of New York City follow his strict new COVID-19 guidelines, or they risk losing their freedom, that their freedom will be taken away. Pay close attention to what he says here.
The Delta variant has changed the game. Unless we want to run the risk of going back to restrictions and having our freedom taken away and people losing their jobs again, it's really clear what we have to do. So here's a clear message. We're saying you want to go and enjoy great restaurants? Amen. You want to go to movie theaters, go to the gym? That's great. We want all that. You got to get vaccinated. You want to work in those places? You got to get vaccinated for the good and the health of everyone around you as well. It's not that tough to do.
He says you're going to risk losing your freedom. Well, that's kind of strange because his measure takes away everybody's freedom. And by the way, Comrade de Blasio, our rights actually come from God, the creator, of everything, not from you, Comrade Bill de Blasio. But apparently Bill thinks he knows best. He's a New York politician and a failure at that, after all. So forget about consulting with your doctor or medical privacy or patient-doctor confidentiality. If you don't follow Comrade de Blasio's rules in New York City and get vaccinated and present your papers to anyone who requests it, you will no longer be allowed to enter a restaurant, a gym, see a movie, Broadway show, go to a concert, nothing. You will be shut out. Show us your papers, get the vaccine mandated, or you're out. What about people that have rare conditions who can't get the vaccine because their doctors tell them that it would harm them? What about those that had COVID? If we're following the science, the Cleveland Clinic says, very prestigious medical institution, that if you had COVID-19, you don't need any of the vaccines. What happened to follow the science, that mantra? But now, as de Blasio just mentioned, we don't follow his orders. All of your precious freedom not only could be stripped away, but he's stripping it away anyway at the drop of a hat. A perfect example of why it's never a good idea to elect a devout, socialist, Marxist, communist, authoritarian figure like Bill de Blasio. And it's not just him. At Biden's request now, Democrats across the country, they're eagerly implementing new mask mandates. What happened if you get vaccinated? Life goes back to normal. They're now mandating vaccine requirements and vaccine passports, social distancing even for kids in school, restrictions on all businesses, and breaking tonight, as we reported at the top, well, now our Pentagon will soon announce a COVID-19 vaccine mandate for every single member of our military, whether they want it or not. And Los Angeles, by the way, they might soon mandate vaccine passports, just like New York. And get this, yesterday, we had this genius that runs the NIH, their director, actually encouraging parents at home that have children that you must put your masks on at home inside your house. Okay, we are now dealing with lunatics. These are the same people that said, if you got the vaccine, life goes back to normal. Are you going to believe them now? Because they lied to us, because that never happened. And clearly they don't believe in something called freedom. But if you question the so-called experts, you oppose the government mandates, you're guilty of killing people, according to New Jersey Governor Phil Murphy, another idiot with one of those executive orders putting COVID-positive people in nursing homes. Take a look.
These folks back there have lost their mind. You've lost your minds. You are the ultimate knuckleheads, and because of what you are saying and standing for, people are losing their life. People are losing their life, and you have to know that. Look in the mirror. Look in the mirror.
Did you, Governor, or did you not sign an executive order forcing nursing homes to take COVID-positive patients? We're going to get lectures from you? Without a doubt, the dramatic lectures from the left are once again ramping up. At the same time, they're not going to say a word about the biggest super spreader event that has been ongoing since January 20th, right at our own southern border, the Biden super spreader. The state of disaster has now been declared in McAllen, Texas. Why? Because 7,000 COVID-positive illegal immigrants were released into that one city alone, including 1,500 just this past week. This is now more than 1 million illegal immigrants were apprehended at the border. We're now at a 25-year high when we were at a 25-year low with Donald Trump's border policy. Now, we have no idea how many more were not intercepted by law enforcement. A record number of illegal immigrants from all over the world, many with COVID, none of them being tested, nobody's being vaccinated, no mandates for them. And they're now being dispersed in buses and planes to every state in the country. And they're all being paid for by you, courtesy of Joe Biden. But if you turn on fake news CNN or MSDNC or ABC, NBC, CBS, or read the New York Times and Washington Post, you're not going to hear anything about this massive super spreader event. They didn't tell you about Joe's cages for kids in the middle of a pandemic that were overcrowded and they're on top of each other. Yeah, in the middle of a pandemic with a high rate of COVID positivity. But according to the mob, the media, big tech, the Biden administration, well, Governor Ron DeSantis, let's blame him. The guy whose schools have been open now for a full year, we're going to blame him? All because, why? He's not going to force 3-year-olds to wear masks? And today, Governor DeSantis, guess what? He had this powerful response for Joe Biden, and circle back, Jen Psaki. Take a look.
Joe Biden has taken to himself to try to single out Florida over COVID. This is a guy who ran for president saying he was going to, quote, shut down the virus. And what has he done? He's imported more virus from around the world by having a wide open southern border. Biden, he rejects science because he denies the fact that people that recover from COVID have long-lasting immunity. And that's been proven time and time again, and the data is very clear. So if you're trying to restrict people, impose mandates, if you're trying to ruin their jobs and their livelihoods and their small business, if you are trying to lock people down, I am standing in your way, and I'm standing for the people of Florida. So why don't you do your job? Why don't you get this border secure? And until you do that, I don't want to hear a blip about COVID from you. Thank you.
Well said. And by the way, it was Governor DeSantis. He mobilized early. Every single sector of his government to focus on the most vulnerable, the elderly population in Florida, to protect them, unlike New York, New Jersey, Pennsylvania, and Michigan, where they were putting COVID-positive patients in nursing homes and killing the most vulnerable population. The Biden administration's actually concerned with the spread of COVID. Close the border, Joe. Close the border. That's the biggest super spreader. You're responsible for the biggest super spreader event in the entire history of the COVID pandemic in this country. That would prevent thousands of unvaccinated illegal immigrants that you're processing every day by not literally enforcing the laws of the land from pouring across our borders illegally. That would stop those infected with COVID-19 from getting into the country, likely infecting American citizens that you keep giving conflicting messages to. But clearly trashing Governor DeSantis is more important to Joe Biden. Hey, Sean Hannity here. Hey, click here to subscribe to Fox News YouTube page and catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis. You will not get it anywhere else.